You're sitting in the Home Depot parking lot. It's dark. The store lights are buzzing like they're judging you, and you're staring at the receipt in your lap like it's written in a foreign language. $847.23. Mold remover, pipe fittings, a temporary patch kit that will absolutely not be temporary. A shop vac because apparently you live in a project now. And you're thinking, wait, didn't the seller say this house was in perfect condition? Perfect condition. Yeah, perfect condition, like a used iPhone listed as lightly scratched that arrives looking like it lost a fight with a blender. And here's what's messing with your brain. You didn't buy a mansion. You didn't buy some crumbling haunted Victorian with a turret and a cemetery out back. You bought a normal house, and one dumb pipe just extracted almost $900 from your life in a single afternoon. Let that sink in. Because this is the part nobody includes in the cute "we got the keys" Instagram post. This is the part where your investment starts acting like a money incinerator. Look, this isn't about you being irresponsible. This isn't about you not budgeting. This is a structural trap. It's the real estate industrial complex. Lenders, agents, inspectors, home warranty companies, HGTV, TikTok, house hackers, and every person who profits when you sign a mortgage and emotionally weld your identity to drywall. And their favorite comforting lie is the 1% maintenance rule. You've heard it. Just plan on spending about 1% of the home's value per year on maintenance. It sounds so clean, so reasonable, so mathy, like someone did the spreadsheets for you, but it's outdated, it's incomplete, and it's designed to keep you calm enough to sign. Because if you actually understood what houses cost, what they extract, you'd hesitate. You'd negotiate harder, you'd rent longer, you'd buy smaller. And that hesitation is bad for the machine, so they sell you the vibe. Real estate always goes up. Renting is throwing money away. Owning is forced savings. You can always refinance. Your home is your biggest investment. Here's what most people don't realize. A house is not primarily an investment. A house is a consumption good that sometimes appreciates. It is shelter first, a lifestyle second, and an investment, maybe third, on a good decade with a tailwind, if you don't over-renovate it like a maniac. The system doesn't want you thinking like that. It wants you performing financial stability. Because we're living in a split-screen economy. On one screen, everyone looks rich. New kitchens, new fences. We upgraded to our forever home. On the other screen, you're drowning, quietly Venmoing a plumber $620 while pretending everything is fine. The economy is a movie set. The backdrops look incredible. Behind the set, it's duct tape, credit cards, and stress rashes. All right, receipts time. Here's the stat that should make your stomach drop. The average homeowner spends $21,400 per year, kind of about $1,783 per month, on hidden costs like maintenance, taxes, and insurance on top of the mortgage. Not the mortgage, on top of the mortgage. And before someone says, yeah, but that's average, and averages are always inflated by rich people with huge houses, you're right to be suspicious. Always be suspicious of averages. So let's do this properly. Median household income in the U.S. is roughly $75,000. U.S. Census Bureau recent data. After taxes, health insurance, payroll deductions, you're not living on $75,000. You're living on something like $55,000 to $60,000 take home, depending on state and benefits. Now translate that. If you take home $5,000 a month and your house is extracting, mortgage, say $2,300, very normal now. Hidden costs, $1,783, that's $4,083 per month. On shelter, that's not building wealth. That's a financial prison with granite countertops. And it's not just the big, obvious stuff like replacing a roof. It's the death by 1,000 cuts expenses. Property taxes that climb quietly like a thief in socks. Homeowners insurance that jumps 20% because weather water heater dies. HVAC has a minor issue that costs $1,200. Sewer line insurance upsell HOA fees. Pest control, gutter cleaning, tree trimming. Because apparently trees are also your responsibility now. The fence leaning like it's giving up on life. The 1% rule doesn't capture any of that properly because it assumes homes are neat little predictable machines. They're not. Homes are living organisms that slowly rot, and every year your house negotiates a new ransom. Here's how you can tell the story is broken. The system wants you to believe most homeowners are doing great because home values went up. But median reality is uglier. Median homeowner is not sitting on liquid wealth. They're sitting on paper equity that can't pay for a furnace. Most Americans don't have unlimited cash. Buffers. In multiple surveys, a large chunk of people struggle to cover a $400 to $1,000 emergency without debt. Federal Reserve Shed reports consistently show fragility like this. So what happens when the hidden costs show up? They go on a credit card or a HELOC, or you just delay it until the small problem becomes a mold colony. This is where it gets really interesting. The real estate industrial complex doesn't care how you pay. It just needs you locked into the ownership storyline. Because once you're in, you'll do almost anything to stay in. You'll cut retirement contributions. You'll stop investing. You'll take on side gigs. You'll pretend you're fine. You'll become a homeowner who is technically building equity while your future evaporates. Now we talk about the part nobody wants to talk about. Opportunity cost. The cost isn't just dollars leaving your account. It's what those dollars could have become if you weren't feeding them into a structure that leaks, cracks, and needs a new roof every time the wind gets aggressive. Let's run a clean example using the hidden cost number. If your house extracts $1,783 per month in hidden costs, and instead you rented a place where the all-in savings were even half that, let's say you could invest $1,000 per month difference into a boring index fund, VTI, VOO, VTSAX, whatever, something diversified and low-fee. Using a 7% annual return, which is a conservative-ish long-term stock market assumption after inflation for rough planning, over 30 years, monthly investing, $1,000. Time, 30 years growth, approximately 7%. That's roughly $1.2 million. Let that sink in. That one decision, I must own at all costs versus I'll rent if it's cheaper and invest the gap, can be a seven-figure fork in the road. And that's just $1,000 per month. If your ownership premium is $1,500 per month, you're talking about close to $2 million over a working lifetime. This is why I get unreasonably angry when people say renting is throwing money away. No, overpaying for housing is throwing your future away, and the system sells it to you as virtue. Responsible adults own. Yeah, responsible adults also don't set their retirement account on fire to impress their broke friends. By the way, if you want more videos where we actually pull the receipts on these normal financial lies, hit subscribe. Because the real estate industrial complex has a PR team, you don't. So we're going to use math. Now you might be thinking, okay, but owning forces me to save. Renting is too tempting. I'll spend the difference. Totally fair. That's the real objection. The problem isn't that renting is inherently superior. The problem is that most people do not widen the gap. They rent, but then they buy the Tesla. Or they rent, but they furnish like they own a penthouse. Or they rent, but they treat no maintenance as permission to lifestyle inflate. And that's how you end up broke in a nice apartment. So the real issue isn't rent versus buy. It's whether you're using housing to create a gap between what you earn and what you spend. Because the gap is where freedom lives. And the reason homeownership is such a powerful trap is psychological. You feel like you're moving up in the world. People praise you for adulting. Your house becomes your personality. You start performing stability, and the sunk cost fallacy keeps you trapped. We've already put so much into it. You don't want to admit your investment is actually a consumption monster. So you normalize the pain. You call it home ownership stuff. No, sometimes it's not home ownership stuff. Sometimes it's financial self-harm with a welcome mat. Here's the boring solution. Treat your home as a liability with an appreciation kicker, not a retirement plan, not a wealth strategy, not a personality, shelter, stability. And maybe it goes up in value over time, but don't bank your future on it. So what do you actually do? You compare rent, all in, versus mortgage plus property tax, plus insurance plus maintenance plus A plus closing costs, plus opportunity cost of down payment. And here's a clean rule of thumb that cuts through the nonsense. If renting a comparable place is 50% cheaper all in than owning, renting is often the smarter financial move if, and only if, you invest the difference. That's not a moral statement, that's arithmetic. Because appreciation is not guaranteed. Maintenance is. Homeowners need a bigger buffer than renters, period. If you own, a reasonable starting target is often 3 to 6 months of expenses as a base emergency fund, plus a house fund that can take a punch. Think $5,000 to $15,000, depending on house age/size. Because your house will eventually demand tribute. The calm buffer keeps you from financing your furnace at 24% APR like it's a vacation. If you rent and save money, automate it the same day you get paid, automatic transfer to brokerage/retirement. Buy broad index funds, VTI/VOO/VTSAX. Make it boring. Make it consistent. You are not trying to time the market. You are trying to outlast your own impulses. This is the hardest part. Your friends will upgrade. Your coworkers will talk about their equity. Your feed will show remodeled kitchens and backyard pergolas. Split screen economy, on screen, success. Off screen, debt, stress, and couples fighting about a $9,000 roof. Here's what most people don't realize. A lot of home equity stories are just people bragging about a number they can't spend without selling the house, and then paying closing costs, and then buying another overpriced house. It's like bragging about your calories burned while eating cake. Because I'm not here to be a contrarian for sport. Buying can be perfectly fine if you're staying put for a long time, often 7 to 10 plus years. The payment is sustainable on median income reality, not two incomes and vibes. You're not skipping retirement contributions to afford it. You have the calm buffer. You're buying less house than the bank says you can afford. You understand that maintenance is not optional, but buying because you're scared of being left behind? That's how you end up with a beautiful cage. So let's go back to you in that parking lot. Receipt shaking in your hand. $847 evaporated on the first small surprise. Here's the real punchline. That receipt isn't an exception. It's the business model. The system sells the fantasy of stability, then invoices you for reality, forever. And the most dangerous part is how quiet it is. It doesn't feel like a crisis. It feels like adulthood. Until you look up and realize you're 45, your retirement account is anemic, and your house has eaten every raise you ever got. If you do nothing else after this video, do these 3 things. Calculate your true housing cost, mortgage plus taxes plus insurance plus HOA plus utilities plus realistic maintenance, not the 1% bedtime story. Look at it monthly, not yearly. Monthly is where fear lives. Find your ownership premium. What would it cost to rent something comparable? If owning is dramatically higher, that difference is either wealth you're building somewhere else or wealth you're sacrificing to perform stability. If renting is cheaper, invest the difference automatically into VTI/VOO/VTSAX. If owning is your choice, automate a house fund plus retirement so maintenance doesn't steal your future. That's it. No hustle culture, no house hacking, no spreadsheet cosplay. Just widening the gap and letting compounding do its job. A house can be a wonderful place to live, but if you treat it like an investment, it will turn into a money incinerator and you'll call the smoke equity. Run the real numbers. Build the calm buffer. Invest the gap. Stop performing stability. The math doesn't wait, and neither does real estate.